It's The Log. I'm Charles Purcell. Oh, lots to talk about today. As always, let's a couple of notes first. Looking at the calendar here, next week it's already time for our solstice show. The podcast will post on the 20th or the 21st, and there it is, solstice. So we'll see if we can come up with something special for you on that. Let's see, we got anything planned? Oh, the usual, my usual rant about all the pre-Christian pagan origins of Christmas, and I think you've all become pretty familiar with that. So we'll see what we can come up with. I know our musical director Peter Donalds has a Christmas album, a whole album of Christmas songs, so we'll probably get him to share some of those. Then looking beyond that, then the following week would be the final program of 2019. So we have to do a little year in review, right? We'll do that. We'll try to find a unique way to do that. And then looking ahead to February 2nd. February 2nd is our 1-year anniversary. It's the 1-year anniversary of The Log. And to be honest, that's probably just going to be a clip show. You know, the old-fashioned clip show. But they're going to be good clips. We're going to put together the highlights of 2019. And then the real news that I can't really share with you because we haven't quite figured it out yet. But starting in our second year, so that would be February of 2020, we're going to tinker a little bit, make some format changes. We are having meetings and sending emails and text messages and having long conference room meetings long into the night. Trying to figure out exactly what we're going to do. I can tell you this much. I'll give you a little hint. If you were a fan of Charles Purcell Presents, which was kind of a hodgepodge of scenes and stories and sound sculpture and radio theater, that might be making a little bit of a resurrection. I can't make any big promises right now, but that's kind of part of our thought process. So, looking ahead to that, a few program notes. What else is going on? Well, I'll tell you what we're not going to talk about today. It's huge, of course, and we're going to give it full attention starting next week. But, of course, COP25 is just finishing in Madrid, the climate summit. The UN and others have recently released major, important reports on the climate crisis. And, of course, our good friend Greta Thunberg, as you all know, has now won the Time Magazine Person of the Year. That was a slam dunk. I think we knew that 6 months ago, that was going to be the case. So good for her. It only amplifies her voice, and that's great. She's using her voice wonderfully. So good for her. So, we will give that the attention it deserves next week. This week, the other major story that we have to talk about, of course, impeachment. So it's official. Articles of impeachment. For only the third time in American history, a president is going to stand trial for impeachment. Here we go.
There's no inquiry. Will you answer my question?
Gentlemen will suspend.
Okay. Parliamentary inquiry. Will you recognize that?
No, Miss Macbeth.
After a few more rounds of foolishness from the Republicans on the committee and the Democrats trying to lay out their case, which I believe they've done pretty convincingly, we've got two articles of impeachment: abuse of power and obstruction of Congress. So the abuse of power is obvious, asking Ukraine to announce a bogus inquiry into a universally debunked conspiracy theory on Ukraine meddling of the 2016 election, which of course didn't happen. Just a right-wing, radical conspiracy theory. And then, of course, investigations into Trump's political rival, Joe Biden, and his son, Hunter Biden.
Well, I would think that if they were honest about it, they'd start a major investigation into the Bidens. It's a very simple answer.
Again, all just, to use an unfortunate phrase, trumped-up charges against the Bidens.
Any doubt that they weren't crooked. That was a crooked deal, 100%. He had no knowledge.
So the Democrats have made their case, as I said, rather convincingly. Pretty obvious to everyone that the thug, the crime boss, currently occupying the Oval Office, abused his power by asking a foreign government to assist in his re-election campaign.
By the way, likewise, China just started an investigation into the Bidens.
There's really no debate. There's no denying any of these facts. They are just facts. We've seen it clearly laid out. And then obstruction of Congress for denying subpoenas, instructing key witnesses to either not testify at all or to lie. They couldn't get him on obstruction of justice because, well, he never testified like Clinton did in his impeachment. That's why they were able to get him there for perjury.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
Of course, if they wanted to, they probably could get him on his written Mueller testimony. He was less than truthful, to say the least, in his written testimony to Mueller. But that was the only time he was under oath. He never testified before Mueller, never testified before a grand jury, never testified before Congress. They certainly would have gotten him for perjury and obstruction of justice if that had been the case.
I'm a very honest person.
So the big debate among Democrats was on which path to follow, the narrow path or the broader path. The broader path, which I recommended, would have included all the many dozens and dozens of reasons to impeach this guy, including Mueller, including emoluments, including border policy. Just the fact that he's completely repugnant and an embarrassment to the United States as president. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's listen to this week's announcement from House Judiciary Committee Chairman Jerry Nadler announcing the articles of impeachment.
Today, in service to our duty to the Constitution and to our country, the House Committee on the Judiciary is introducing 2 articles of impeachment charging the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, with committing high crimes and misdemeanors. The first article is for abuse of power. It is an impeachable offense for the President to exercise the powers of his public office to obtain an improper personal benefit while ignoring or injuring the national interest. That is exactly what President Trump did when he solicited and pressured Ukraine to interfere in our 2020 presidential election, thus damaging our national security, undermining the integrity of the next election, and violating his oath to the American people. These actions, moreover, are consistent with President Trump's previous invitations of foreign interference in our 2016 presidential election. And when he was caught, when the House investigated and opened an impeachment inquiry, President Trump engaged in unprecedented, categorical, and indiscriminate defiance of the impeachment inquiry. This gives rise to the second article of impeachment for obstruction of Congress. Here, too, we see a familiar pattern in President Trump's misconduct. A president who declares himself above accountability,
I'm in the driver's seat,
above the American people,
I run the show,
and above Congress's power of impeachment,
I'm the f***ing president,
which is meant to protect against threats to our democratic institutions, is a president who sees himself as above the law. We must be clear. No one, not even the president, is above the law.
Jerry Nadler earlier this week announcing articles of impeachment. And as I said, the Democrats could have gone much, much broader if they had chosen to. And I kind of wish they had. I think it's important not only for our current situation, but just for the sake of history, if nothing else. Lay out all of the crimes. Lay them out. on the record, indelibly inked into the historical record of this time. As you know, and as we've spoken about many times, Mueller laid out countless violations. Not only in obstruction, those were the obvious ones. He spelled out 10 very specific cases of obstruction.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Mueller also laid out a very clear and intentional pattern of welcoming Russian interference in the 2016 election. They welcomed the interference. They invited the interference. They attempted to collude, but failed to collude on several different occasions. And then that became the basis for Agent Orange and his henchmen to claim no collusion.
There is absolutely no collusion.
The phrase of the year, no collusion, no collusion, which really meant we tried to collude, but we failed because we're idiots. The Mueller report spelled out for us all to see basically a crime syndicate that kept failing and kept getting caught. They were the gang that couldn't shoot straight, which also describes, of course, the Ukraine incident. They tried to coerce President Zelensky of Ukraine to announce a bogus investigation for the purposes of tarring a political rival, but they got caught, and it didn't happen. If you bribe someone and they balk and you get caught before you can finish your crime, well, that doesn't make you innocent. So, yeah, I wish the Democrats had decided to go with the broader path. As much as it pains me to say this, I have to admit, unless something really extraordinary happens, the Senate will vote to acquit because the Republicans have the majority. So as long as that's the case, why not just throw the book at him for all to see? There's everything in the Mueller report. There's the issue of emoluments. You could break down his border policy, from the Muslim ban to the funding for the wall to caging children and separating families. There are certainly impeachable offenses in that regard that continue today. And as I said, just the fact that he's a repugnant, vile, embarrassing clown who has left a taint on that office. Put it in there. Put it right in there. His racism, his sexism, when he defended Nazis.
People that were very fine people.
When he mocked a disabled New York Times reporter.
Now the poor guy, you got to see this guy. I don't know what I said. I don't remember.
When he called for violence in his rallies.
Knock the crap out of him, would you? Seriously.
The list goes on and on and on. Needtoimpeach.com has been around for a while, sort of collecting all of these. Again, obstruction of justice, going back to the Mueller report. The firing of James Comey. I won't go through the whole list. Don McGahn, White House counsel, asked multiple times to commit crimes. Again, they failed. They're the gang who couldn't shoot straight, or he's the gang leader who couldn't shoot straight. Profiting from his presidency. I'm reading now from needtoimpeach.com. Number 2, profiting from the presidency. The emoluments clause violated over and over and over again on a daily basis, promoting his resorts, requiring official stays at his hotels, foreign officials buddying up to Trump by spending millions at his properties. Number 3, soliciting foreign interference in U.S. elections. There again, we go back to the 2016 election. Publicly called on Russia. That's the thing, we see half of these crimes right on TV or right in his tweets. He called on Russia to find Hillary's so-called missing emails.
Russia, if you're listening, I hope you're able to find the 30,000 emails that are missing.
And then, by golly, they did it 5 hours later. Russian hackers attacked Clinton's personal office for the first time 5 hours after that infamous public call that we all saw. The Don Jr. meeting with Manafort and others in on that meeting, trying to get dirt on Hillary from Russia. From not only Russians, but the Russian government. And they knew it. We all know they knew it. It's right there. It's undisputed fact. And then again, soliciting foreign interference in U.S. elections. Then it happens again now for 2020. And then now we are at the Ukraine story, and that's where the Democrats are focusing their impeachment as we speak. But there's so much more. NeedToImpeach.com. Number 4, advocating political and police violence.
In the good old days, this doesn't happen because they used to treat them very, very rough.
Trump and his rhetoric have been cited in numerous criminal proceedings as being the inspiration and justification for political violence.
I don't know if I'll do the fighting myself or if other people will.
He continues to allude to his supporters engaging in insurrection to keep him in power. He jokes about staying longer than 8 years, and with a wink and a nod suggests violence if he's impeached, or violence even if he is defeated at the polls. Number 5, abuse of power. The Ukraine investigation has certainly shown that without any doubt. But there's even more. He's pardoned war criminals. He pardoned Joe Arpaio. Remember this guy? The hardline immigration cop who was convicted for contempt of court after ignoring a court order that he stopped detaining and searching people based on the color of their skin. His pardon amounted to an abuse of the pardon power that revealed his indifference to individual rights, equal protections, and the separation of powers. Number 6, engaging in reckless conduct. High-ranking administration officials involved in foreign affairs have signaled that Trump does not have the capacity to make informed decisions in the event of a military crisis. Even worse, his actions could spark a needless confrontation stemming from misunderstanding or miscalculation. The president may be the commander-in-chief of the Army and Navy of the United States, but that does not give him the right to behave in reckless or wanton ways that put millions of lives at risk. Speaking of putting millions of lives at risk, his rhetoric and his policy on the climate crisis could be part of this impeachment. What greater crime than that one? NeedToImpeach.com. Number 7, persecuting political opponents. He has repeatedly pressured the Department of Justice and the FBI to investigate and prosecute political adversaries, like Hillary Clinton. It's one of his favorite threats. What did he say about Marie Yovanovitch, the American ambassador to Ukraine, who he didn't care for? Didn't like her testimony, threatened her. Oh, she's going to have some troubles. What the hell does that mean? Of course, asking Ukraine for an announcement of a bogus investigation into Joe and Hunter Biden.
That's a bunch of malarkey.
Just this week, the IG report, the Inspector General of the FBI, came out with their report regarding the origins of the Mueller investigation, which Agent Orange and his little toady, Attorney General Barr, insisted on. So demanded an investigation, again, into his political opponents, branding the FBI and the intelligence agencies as the deep state, and flinging these wild conspiracy theories about his campaign being spied on, and his Attorney General, who now he's found one who will do his bidding.
As far as I'm aware, this is the first time in history that this has been done, the use of these counterintelligence techniques against a presidential campaign. And we have to remember that in today's world, presidential campaigns are frequently in contact with foreign persons. And indeed, in most campaigns, there are signs of illegal foreign money coming in.
What? Wow. Talk about abuse of power. That's the very definition. Trotting out your attorney general to serve as your personal consigliere. You don't need much of an imagination to see exactly what that is. It is exactly what it is. Number 8, attacking the free press. His hijacking and then ownership of the phrase fake news to brand anything unfavorable.
You are fake news.
The enemy of the American people, he calls the free press.
You are the enemy of the people.
Right out of the fascist playbook. Repeatedly, baselessly revoked press credentials for critical coverage. Yep. Again, reading from NeedToImpeach.com. He has dismissed the murder of a critical journalist, citing the economic partnership the U.S. has with the offending nation. Of course, talking there about Saudi Arabia's brutal assassination of Jamal Khashoggi. This demonstrates his unwillingness to respect and uphold the Constitution and disdain for the crucial foundations to our free society. All of this could be and should be included in the impeachment process, in the impeachment hearing. Throw the book at him. You're going to lose in the Senate anyway. Go ahead. Throw it all at him. Violating immigrants' rights to due process. As many as 3,000 immigrant children separated from their parents at the southern border, kept in inhumane conditions. Just this week, an organization of doctors again offered flu immunization to detainees. They contacted the administration, said, look, we're ready to go. Cost you nothing, cost the taxpayers zero money. We're just going to do it for you for free. Just writing to offer this service. And Agent Orange and his administration say, no thanks. No, detainees don't need to be immunized for flu. Even though several have died. The most recent we saw on surveillance camera, 16-year-old boy died of the flu. And then literally days after that horrible video was released to the world, some doctors showed up at a California border detainment camp hoping to immunize children, and they were arrested. The administration keeps trying to justify their policy of detaining migrants indefinitely in violation of their constitutional rights. And they continue to do it while they keep it in the courts, where the issue remains. And you know how that works. You can just keep things in the courts forever and ever. Number 10, violating campaign finance laws. There we get to the Stormy Daniels thing. Michael Cohen, well, I should say Agent Orange, paid her off. Michael Cohen passed the check. Cohen's in jail for it.
I am ashamed that I chose to take part in concealing Mr. Trump's illicit acts.
Trump is an unindicted co-conspirator.
Because I know what Mr. Trump is.
And yet we're leaving all this out of the impeachment.
He is a racist.
I'm not sure why.
He is a con man.
I don't know why we just don't throw the book. Throw the whole damn book.
And he is a cheat.
So yeah, impeachable offenses. Needtoimpeach.com. So many reasons to impeach this guy. I don't know why we're not throwing the book at him. Not sure. All right, let's take a breath. Coming up, I want to talk a little bit about, I want to take a stroll through history and look at the Bill Clinton impeachment a little bit. We'll talk about that next. It's The Log. I'm Charles Purcell. So we're spending a little time on impeachment today. We haven't talked about it a lot, but it's hitting the fan now. Articles of impeachment, they're laid out for us. The full House will vote before Christmas, with it looks like a January trial to come. So it's happening. One of the many Republican talking points, they've got several talking points. They don't have any real defense at all. How could they? They don't. But they have talking points. Well, one of them is, well, you've always wanted to impeach this guy right from the very beginning, before he was even elected. Well, I don't have any problem with that. I would agree. Yes, of course. Because he was a thug and a criminal from the very beginning. We all knew it. It was obvious from the very beginning. On election night, when that nightmare happened and he actually won the election, my very first thought, I knew in my bones, this guy is going to be impeached. How could he not be impeached? He commits crimes right in front of our eyes. He admits to them, grabbing women by the hoo-ha, bragging about that. His obvious racism and sexism. His announced policies, his promises, even before he was elected. He ran on doing illegal things. The calls for violence. As I've said, the general repugnance of the guy. There's no way he wasn't going to get impeached. Of course we wanted to impeach him from the beginning, because he was committing impeachable offenses from even before he was elected. I remember during the Mueller probe, when it kind of felt like it was going on and on. It's like, haven't you got enough? There was a little meme that I thought was pretty appropriate, where Mueller is just looking very frustrated, his head in his hands. And the caption is, Jesus, just stop committing crimes for 5 minutes so I can wrap this thing up. He couldn't wrap it up because he kept committing crimes. All right, I want to sidetrack a little bit here to Bill Clinton. There aren't too many comparisons you can make. It's kind of different. But the whole "you've always wanted to impeach Trump" was used back then too. Well, you've always wanted to impeach Clinton. That was the charge from the Democrats to the Republicans. From the day he took office, they kept trying to claim his presidency as illegitimate and to brand him a criminal right from the very beginning. The only difference was he wasn't a criminal. I mean, I'm no defender of Bill Clinton. Don't get me wrong. All right? I'm not here to defend Bill Clinton. But that really was a witch hunt. They're going after, the whole Whitewater and Travelgate and all of that. Now, there were 15 convictions on the whole Whitewater thing. Not Bill or Hillary, though. So I suppose you could make that comparison. Again, I'm no defender of Bill Clinton. Maybe he's running a little crime boss thing here, too, and he knows how to keep his hands clean while his henchmen do the dirty work. Yeah, maybe. Who cares? That's possible. So there's one parallel, I guess. The opposing side wanted this guy's head from the day he took office. Now, here's a big difference. Of course, the whole Whitewater affair took place long before Clinton was president. Can you imagine if today's Democrats went hunting through the many years of Trump's wrongdoing in business prior to him becoming a candidate or a president? Can you even imagine? First of all, the Republicans would go wild with indignation, and the Democrats would have an endless reservoir of crimes to cherry pick, looking back into private business deals. And that's not even to mention the couple of dozen credible accusations of sexual assault and rape. Oh my goodness. So they got Bill Clinton eventually on perjury and obstruction of justice. Now, if you'll recall, or if you don't know, or if you need a little history lesson, the Ken Starr independent investigation approved by Janet Reno's Justice Department. They needed approval from the Justice Department. Bill Clinton's Attorney General, Janet Reno, gave it the green light, and Ken Starr was investigating two things. The Whitewater scandal, which was just, real estate business, the kind of thing that those kind of people do. The kind of thing that Trump, did. So it was the Whitewater story and Travelgate, which was, some staff in the White House in the travel office were fired. And it was a little unusual. People like that, they're kind of career bureaucrats. They don't usually get fired. And they did. And the Republicans smelled blood. They thought they could get some juice out of this. So that's what started the whole thing. That's what started the Ken Starr investigations, Whitewater and Travelgate. So after a couple of years of digging and digging and digging, like I said, they found some wrongdoing in the whole Whitewater scandal affair, but exonerated Bill and Hillary. And then they found nothing on Travelgate. It didn't smell right, but there are a lot of screwy, weird things that happen that don't rise to the level of impeachment. So they came up with nothing. But just as they're about ready to wrap up, now they get a whiff of the Monica Lewinsky story. So that's how it came to be. So they impeach Bill Clinton on perjury and obstruction of justice, 2 counts. The perjury happens within a deposition Clinton is giving in a sexual harassment lawsuit filed by Paula Jones. And that's where he's asked if he had sexual relations with Monica Lewinsky, and he says no, he did not. Let's hear that. What did he have to say here?
That is not my recollection. My recollection is that I did not have sexual relations with Ms. Lewinsky, and I'm staying on my former statement about that.
Okay, so there it is. And here's a little tidbit from the time, because I'm old enough, I was paying attention. There was this great debate in the country on the definition of the term sexual relations. And many, many, many people, to my surprise, did not include oral sex within the definition of sexual relations. Now, I thought that was kind of crazy myself, but apparently, I don't know about if that's still the case today. At least at the time it came out, they did polling and they did interviews and they talked to lots of people, and it was kind of a regional thing too, of the South versus North versus West. But a great, great, great number of people said that no, oral sex is not sexual relations. So that was a little weird. I did not have sexual relations. Okay. All right. So there's that. That's what they impeached the guy on. And then the second article was obstruction of justice, because then allegedly he asked others to lie. He asked Monica Lewinsky to lie, although he denied that he did. He and his buddies helped Monica Lewinsky get another job. Basically, try to keep things quiet. Now, good behavior? Nah. Impeachable? Not even close. Not even close. Not even close. He's not using the FBI and the CIA, the State Department. He's not involving foreign countries. It's a guy who got blowjobs from an intern. And yeah, it's all bad. And especially in light of the Me Too movement, I might even go so far as to say he never should have been president. And maybe he should have resigned. Just for being gross. Just for being kind of an asshat. But this is not even remotely what the founders had in mind for impeachment. The other thing. Oh, if I got a clip of that, let me find it. Let me find it here. When, oh yeah, the definition of is. What the meaning? It depends on what the meaning of is. Let's see. Let's see if I can find it.
That statement is a completely false statement. Whether or not Mr. Bennett knew of your relationship with Ms. Lewinsky, the statement that there was no sex of any kind, in any manner, shape, or form with President Clinton was an utterly false statement. Is that correct?
It depends upon what the meaning of the word is.
Yes.
If is means is and never has been, that's one thing. If it means there is none, that was a completely true statement.
So, if you recall this, I don't know if you do. Yeah, it was Clinton's lawyer in a deposition or in a statement who said there is no sexual relationship between my client and Ms. Lewinsky. So they were just being overly lawyerly. And the point that Bill is making here in this clip is actually 100% true. If the statement is there is no, it does depend on what the meaning of is. There is no sexual relationship, well then that's true. Has there ever been? Well, that's another question. And every lawyer knows you don't answer a question that hasn't been asked. So parallels to the Clinton impeachment, I guess they're a little bit in that the opposing party wanted him right out of the gate. As soon as he took office, they wanted him. They wanted to find a way to get him. I think that's true in both cases. The difference is, in this case, in our contemporary case, it was completely justified because he gave us 100 reasons, and he kept giving us more reasons every time he tweeted and every time he opened his weird little orange anus mouth. So throw the damn book at him. But they're only going to go for this narrow path. You know, they got Al Capone on tax evasion, right? Everybody in the world knew that Al Capone was a crime boss. They knew he was guilty of everything under the sun, of murder and extortion and any horrible crime you can name. Al Capone was guilty of it, and everybody knew it. But like crime bosses do, they're kind of smart about it, and they got their lawyers and they got all their minions and henchmen to kind of cover them. They talk in vagaries, things like, "I need you to do me a favor, though." We all know what that means. Agent Orange uses that all the time. But President Zelensky, you need to do us a favor, though. But FBI Director Comey, Flynn is such a nice guy. I wonder, maybe you could just see your way to let that go. That's the way crime bosses talk. And then when eyewitnesses relay that conversation, then the defense can say, well, he never asked you to do it. He never used the word quid pro quo. He never ordered you to end the Flynn investigation, Director Comey. No, of course not. That's not what crime bosses do. It was clear to Comey, and it was clear to everyone who heard Comey's testimony what he was doing. So yeah, that's what crime bosses do. They got Capone on tax evasion. They couldn't pin anything else on him. They tried and they tried, but everybody knew he was guilty. And everybody knows that Agent Orange is guilty of multiple serious crimes against the nation. Everybody knows it, but he's just slippery enough to slither out of that beyond a reasonable doubt, proof in court kind of a standard. And so the Democrats are going to go narrow. They're just going to go with the two articles: abuse of power, obstruction of Congress, limited to the request to Ukraine for bogus investigations, or at least the announcement of bogus investigations on 2016 and the Bidens. They're going to lose in the Senate, so I say, why not throw the book? Just open this thing up. Just lay it all out on the table. Why not? The history books will have the Mueller report and all the rest, immigration, all the other items I mentioned in the need to impeach. They'll have that down in the article, in the historical record. They'll have it in the footnotes. They'll have it in side articles. Oh, these are all the other terrible things he was accused of. But if you put it in impeachment, if you put it in the impeachment articles, now it's on the front page of that historical entry. And that's where it deserves to be. And if I could be cynical just for a second, I don't know how that doesn't help you in the 2020 election. If you want to be cynically political about it, putting it all on the table, read aloud from the floor of the Senate in an impeachment trial, all of the reasons to impeach. How does that not help you in the 2020 election? See, I think it does. A lot of people disagree with me. Fine. It's a debatable point. I'll give you that. You can certainly debate that point. But I say throw the book at him. All right. We haven't spent a lot of time on impeachment on this program. Today we are. And when I come back, I want to give you, such as they are, the Republican talking points. So in other words, we got a comedy segment coming up here. It's The Log. I'm Charles Purcell. We're talking impeachment today. Well, okay. The Republican talking points. What shall I say about them? Tell you what, let's do it this way. I'm going to play for you Ranking Member Doug Collins, Republican from someplace. I forget where he's from. House Judiciary Committee Ranking Member. This was his closing statement from last week's Judiciary hearings. So let's do it that way. Let's play that, and I'll comment as necessary.
Without objection, I now recognize the ranking member for any concluding remarks he may have.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One quick thing before we enter. It does matter when they knew and didn't know, because after they supposedly found out, it does matter because after they two meetings with officials from the United States, it was never talked about and no linkage was made. So it does matter. And the reason it matters is because if there is no understanding that this is being withheld, there is no threat, there is no quid pro quo.
They knew.
And it also goes to the state of mind of Mr. Zelensky, who says, I'm not being pressured. There's nothing here. And again, it goes back to the amazing thought of this majority who keeps calling the Ukrainian leader a liar. It's just amazing that we continue to propagate that myth here tonight.
Okay, they're not calling him a liar. They are saying he's a victim of a shakedown. And there's a huge disparity of power between the United States and Ukraine.
Ukraine. You know what the Ukraine is? It's a sitting duck.
Ukraine needs the United States. Zelensky needs Trump.
Ukraine is weak.
So Trump has Zelensky under his boot heel. If Zelensky continues to say, I didn't feel pressure, it's because he's basically a hostage victim.
I think it's time to put the hurt on the Ukraine.
He's the victim here. So no one's accusing him of being a liar.
But what did we learn today? Here's some things we did learn today. It's unprecedented hearing that Mr. Sensenbrenner and others talked about, in which staff basically not members gave testimony and questioned each other and got into very heated debates with each other.
Okay, this has nothing to do with anything.
What the Judiciary Committee should be doing. It's
process.
Not the way
You keep hearing about process,
again,
right?
The reason it is, Mr. Goldman handled himself very well.
This is a process
but he's not
argument.
Adam Schiff. He doesn't wear a member pin. This is ridiculous. We shouldn't be doing this. The Intel Committee also, what we did find out today, took phone records and went on a political endeavor against the ranking member and others.
All right, this
but
is a
no
lie.
one will take
Another lie.
for telling the staff to use Mr. Nunez's numbers or others, or who decided to put the smear job in the report.
Okay, let's pause this for a second. If you didn't hear this news, within the investigation of Lev Parnas and Rudy Giuliani, Lev Parnas is one of the stooges making trouble in Ukraine. So within that investigation, they found that there were several phone calls with Devin Nunes, ranking member of the House Intelligence Committee, the very committee investigating these issues. They became public, and now, of course, he's painting it as some great civil rights violation, that they were going after Devin Nunes and that they're smearing him. Yeah, it's just another distraction. It's just another nothing burger. Well, it's not a nothing burger. I mean, the fact that Devin Nunes had lengthy conversations with Giuliani and Parnas, that's something that's pretty interesting, I'd say. But again, the Republicans are just grabbing at anything they can come up with.
We'll just assume that's Mr. Schiff, since I do.
Oh, you're going to assume that? You're going to assume that? Okay, so let's put assumptions into the record.
Today, which was really interesting, that staff can determine what's relevant or not.
Back to staff, back to process, nothing, no defense.
Members of Congress that wasn't relative or that wasn't relevant. Again, it goes back to the problem we don't have members here to actually talk about this.
Process, nothing, no defense. You hear any defense yet?
That the chairman continues to just disregard House rules. Just completely, blatantly disregarding House rules on not addressing the minority hearing day. And if I hear basically one more time, I'll address that when we're marking up impeachment articles. What is the use of a minority hearing day if you're going to have evidence about the markup?
And what's the use of minority hearing day if you're not going to offer any defense?
Even your most heated debate on getting rid of this president does not show any way that can be fair. And in the end, both parties are in the minority.
Again, have you heard any defense yet?
Integrity, which again, the staff have talked about today.
This is his last word.
There's nothing else for us to do.
This is his closing argument.
And as we were sitting here discussing whether to impeach the president over a call he had with the Ukrainian president,
no, it's not one phone call. It's a months-long scheme.
Democrats are seeking to impeach the president over that, and we're seeing the problems with the Russia investigation play out again in front of our eyes. The fuss over the Ukraine is the same thing, using the same playbook. A select group of individuals
labeling the Russia investigation as a hoax, a witch hunt, a failure, completely untrue, started by Attorney General Barr and his little bogus summary.
So what happened today while we were stuck here? The Inspector General report. The review of 4 files.
Okay, let's of the
FBI
let's misrepresent the IG report.
Here's some of the top findings.
No, not the top findings.
Included inaccurate information.
Incidental findings at best.
The FBI failed to include exculpatory information.
These are incidental findings.
The FBI did not
yes,
cooperate.
in a 400-page report of a huge investigation, you're going to find some problems. They found some, they're going to fix them. None of them merit any sort of criminal investigation or criminal charges.
An FBI attorney altered another agency's email to
side issue, making a relationship that doesn't exist.
Intelligent source. The bottom line, the report shows the page FISA should have never been obtained.
The top line finding was that there's no deep state, there was no political bias
at the time of the 26th election, and you can't
against Agent Orange
with a special counsel investigation. I could go on, but Mr. Durham, who has already weighed in, has the next batch of this, and we will see where it goes. But I do want to take one last thing from our side. Because this undoubtedly will be the last hearing, because we have no desire to hear anything from our side, minority hearing or otherwise.
If you got something to say, I'd love to hear from you if you had something to say.
They're the top investigators in the Intelligence and Judicial Committee, and they combined have 15 to 20 years experience in the House conducting investigations to protect American interests and taxpayer dollars.
What is
these
this?
Public servants don't usually do as a part of their work is field questions from others who come before them, from Democrats, donors, and pundits.
So
Ms. Ms. Callan usually worked for and alongside members of Congress
using
and fellow public servants.
His
I'm
last
word chose to highlight their investigators
to whine about the process and to praise his own staff lawyers.
This is where we're at. But I would like to thank them for their work today. I'd like to thank them for their work on our behalf. But also I think really for all the ones listening here, if you look around the room, this is what's happening to the American people. By the end of the day, most in the back left.
And that's your defense.
Members of the media are begging to go somewhere else. Because
that's your defense.
Your case isn't made. And
make
one
a
thing
case.
That keeps amazingly said from Mr. Goldman to the chairman to others, that these facts are undisputed. The very nature of the fact that I say I disagree and you say you don't is a disputed fact. These are disputed facts. It'll be the first impeachment that is partisan on facts that are not agreed to. That is the state in which the judiciary has become. We have become a rubber stamp, just as the chairman predicted almost 20 years ago, when we willingly accept from someone else a project or a report that we don't investigate ourselves. And with that is the problem we have, and that is the farce called the Judiciary Committee impeachment scam today. I yield back.
Wow. That is just lame. No, there is no disputing any facts. The Republicans are not disputing facts. Just saying I disagree is not disputing a fact. You're not giving any kind of alternative to that fact. You're just saying I disagree. The sky is blue. Well, I disagree. Grass is green. I disagree. Water is wet. Well, I disagree. He's whining about not getting a minority hearing. I'd be very happy to give you a minority hearing. If you had anything to say, if you had anything to offer, this is a joke. It's a complete and utter joke. And I'd laugh if it wasn't so damn serious. Because we talked about Agent Orange and his criminal enterprise. The entire Republican Party at this point is a criminal enterprise. Collins finished up with his little smarmy, oh, look, the press can't wait to go on to edit something else, and half the people in the room left. Well, that's central to their strategy, is to muddy the waters so thick and to make it so unpleasant and so annoying and so convoluted that people tune out. That's one of their central strategies. They want people to be tuned out. They want people to be annoyed. They want people to just throw up their hands and say, this is crazy, because it's all they've got. At this point, the Republican Party is quite literally a criminal enterprise. They are parroting conspiracy theories Like carnival pitchmen, they are barking out untruths, lies, obfuscations. They're falling right in line with Agent Orange's worst wannabe strongman tactics of disparaging the press, labeling everybody a liar except for him. As to why they're doing it, I have some theories. We don't have time to get into all that today. Maybe next week or very soon we'll get into that. I mean, he is giving them what they want. Dozens and dozens and dozens of judges on the federal judiciary who are going to do their bidding for the cause of zero regulation. You know, money, 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 money. It all comes down to money. It always comes down to money. Almost every single goddamn time it comes down to money, 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 money. So Agent Orange is giving them what they want in the form of ultra-conservative, hyper-conservative, right-wing, deregulatory policies. The judges who are going to uphold those kinds of laws, strict, cruel laws when it comes to things like women's rights, reproductive rights, immigration law. So, yeah, it's no big mystery as to why they like this guy. They love the guy. He's given them what they want. And he has given us 100 different reasons to impeach him, and they are defending him with cheap rhetoric, distractions, and lies. Trump is a crime boss, and the entire Republican Party is his gang. He used to just have Ivanka and Don Jr. and little Eric, and they'd steal money from cancer charities where money was supposed to be going to veterans. They had all their little deals. They had a bogus university. He bankrupted business and had dirty dealings and didn't pay his bills and didn't pay contractors and cheated and lied all through his years in the private sphere. And then he creates this weird, bloated character in reality television, and damned if it didn't get him in the White House. And now he's got the power of the presidency, and he's got the entire Republican Party doing his bidding. A cheap thug, a con man from the very beginning, now holding the power of the Oval Office. And not only that, he's got his protectors. He's got his henchmen. And it's not only Mick Mulvaney, acting chief of staff and head of OMB, Office of Management and Budget, who withheld the money to Ukraine. He's got secretaries heading up every cabinet office in those posts with the express purpose of undermining, of sabotaging those departments. From Rick Perry in energy to Betsy DeVos in education, right on down the line. And then his greatest achievement, he finds the perfect attorney general, William Barr, the very definition of a toady. And now he's got the Republicans in the House of Representatives and a majority of the United States Senate as his loyal gang. And this is the entire picture that needs to be presented to the American public through the impeachment trial. I'm sad that it's not going to happen. I wish they had not limited the articles to just this narrow path. I really wish they had included everything, thrown the book at them, laid it all out for the American people and for history to see. Because that not only indicts a president, that indicts the entire Republican Party. And it indicts a full third of this country who choose to openly support crimes against the nation. I yield back my time.
I now recognize myself for concluding remarks. We now know several things with certainty. We know that the president was at the center of a scheme to pressure Ukraine to announce an investigation of the president's political rivals. He applied that pressure by withholding both a White House meeting and vital military aid. He made that demand directly to President Zelensky and confirmed his personal involvement on the White House lawn. We know that there are no excuses for this conduct. It is no excuse that President Trump eventually released the aid after his scheme was revealed to the public. And it is no excuse that he insisted that there was no quid pro quo only after his scheme was revealed to the public. We know that his actions endangered our national security, putting our alliances, our reputation, and our safety at risk. We know that the President also compromised the integrity of our elections for a corrupt, private, political purpose. We know that President Trump, in an unprecedented act of obstruction, ordered everybody in the executive branch to defy all congressional subpoenas for documents and subpoenas related to the impeachment inquiry. And we know that his attempts to solicit a political favor from the government of Ukraine fit a pattern of conduct that the President established in 2016 when he solicited political assistance from the government of Russia. That pattern of misconduct undermines our national security and undermines free and fair elections. In abusing his office in this manner and in obstructing the investigation that followed, we know that President Trump has put himself before his country. I am struck by the fact that my Republican colleagues have offered no serious scrutiny of the evidence at hand. They have talked about everything else, but they have offered not one substantive word in the President's defense. I suspect that is because there is at base no real defense for the President's actions. President Trump put himself before his country. There is a constitutional remedy for a president who undermines our national security and our elections, who puts his own interests before those of the country. That remedy is impeachment. The facts are clear. The danger to our democracy is clear, and our duty is clear. President Trump violated his oath to the American people. He placed his own private interests ahead of our national security and the integrity of our elections, and constitutes a continuing threat to the integrity of our elections and to our democratic system of government. Such conduct is clearly impeachable.
This episode of The Log is available right now wherever you find your podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, iHeart, YouTube, and the podcast Source. Enter Charles Burcell Presents in the search window. Or best yet, go to charlesburcell.com. There you'll find this and all the other series in the podcast family. Follow, comment, and contact me on Facebook and Twitter. Thanks to our flagship terrestrial station, River West Radio, riverwestradio.com. Theme music composed and performed by Peter Donalds. From the New Arts and Media Studios in Milwaukee, I'm Charles Burcell.